I'd like to talk about the topic of living girlfriends and how to deal with what could be an interesting um, phase of your life where you're contemplating the possibility of having the person you perhaps call a girlfriend, um, a loved one, move in with you, or you move in with the individual. Here are some tips. These are tips for men. Number one, I would encourage you never and not to give the keys of your home or house to anyone, irrespective of whether you are intimately involved with the person. Now, I should make it very clear, I'm assuming you are in the dating marketplace. You are not married. I also assume you are between the age of 18 and, say, 35. Never, number one, give the keys to your home, the keys to your house, the keys to your castle to a woman. The keys are simply an invitation um, to say that this space is a shared space. Your home should be your place of peace for a number of reasons. Um, Primarily being that you need a space to breathe and a space where you can stay focused on your dreams and goals. Now, number two is that you should not have a living girlfriend or have a woman move in with you before age 35. I strongly think it's a wise decision to delay such a decision to move in with a woman until 35 for a number of reasons. I talk about these reasons in other videos, but primarily the key part of, to give you an abridged version of the reason for this advice is at 18, you start the journey having been emancipated. You go to university or college, and then you get out into the world, and you're trying as much as you can to make something valuable of yourself. 18 to 22, sometimes 23, is education. An important phase of your life, but a phase during which you move in with a girl, you start taking what I call shortcuts in terms of protecting yourself and protecting your seed, can lead you to a place where you become loose and forgetful, and suddenly you're a father. And there goes your entire future, your entire dreams. 18 to 23 is education. 23, in my opinion, is when you begin the journey. Sometimes you might start earlier, but generally speaking, 23 is when you begin what I call the 10,000 hours of practice you need to become financially independent, to develop a skill, a trade, a talent, a gift, to become competent in something. Allowing yourself some margin of safety, the fact that you may not achieve this in a straight line. 10,000 hours would be 5 years. With each year, you invest in 2,000 working hours. That's 5 years. Allow an extra 20% to 5 years is 6 years. So from 23 to 29, you've been working head down, trying to develop something of yourself, learning under people who are better than you, failing on other people's platforms, having the security of a job, and absorbing like a sponge everything you come across. Therefore, placing your dreams and goals as sacrosanct, first in line, before you, the person. Relationships will kill your dreams too early and too soon. So stay focused on the dreams. When you get to 29, for most men, you've just started coming to the place of what I call your Garden of Gethsemane. Some men generally will travel in between that period. So I give you an extra year. That extra year could have been something taken at the end of your education as your gap year. It could be in between, or it could just be life's events. So at 30, you've come to the end of that structured learning process. You have some independence. You have a skill you've converted to financial assets that you may have converted to real assets, that you may have converted to human capital, and the ability to keep reproducing. Effectively, you have a fallback, a safe net, but you haven't failed. You need 5 years extra to fail. And this is from 30 to 35. You can try things, you can pursue your purpose, you can pursue your dreams, you can explore, you can pursue that obsession you've always had as a child without the fear that if you fail, everything will fail with you. At this point in time, you're just one person. You can travel the world, learn a new language, go to places. I did the same thing. You pick up your bag and you just pursue that dream, recognizing it's just you. At 35, you've had 5 years of failure. Life has punched you a few times, and so you can take a punch. You get knocked down, you stand up again. You get knocked down again, you stand up again. Why? You've learned how to take a punch and anticipate a punch. At this point in time, you're ready for the relationship and the responsibilities that come with a move-in girlfriend. So, number one, don't give your keys to any woman before 35. Number two, do not have a living girlfriend before 35. Now, recognize something. At 35, you have to go into the marketplace. I'm going to say something that is counterintuitive. When you go into the marketplace at 35, you're looking for someone who you may consider for a permanent long-term relationship. Make sure you age gap date. I like the number 7.5. Usually between 5 and 10 years is a good range for age gap dating. 7.5 years is the median number. So what you're looking for at 35 is someone who's about 27. Now here's where it gets very, very interesting. At 27, she's done the same thing as you. The advice I give to men, well, for women. 18 to 22 for the woman. Usually women tend to choose careers that are less in the STEM field. So they graduate in 4 years. She finishes at 22. She travels for a year. 23, she goes into the work environment. 10,000 hours. 23 to 27, she achieves mastery, recognition, a self of self-worth, self-esteem. She's been trained. She's competent. She has earning potential, human capital. At 27, she has an identity that is not just a girlfriend or a wife. So it's a perfect match between 35, you the man, and 7 years or 7.5 preferably, where she's 27.5. At this point in time, she can move in with you if you choose. But the importance of this is that she has an identity of who she is. She's not dependent, and you're not dependent on her for completion. You're not dependent on another. The whole idea of, my better half is an idiotic statement. You want to be whole, so do you have enough to give? At 35, here is the twist. You should look favorably whilst you're searching the market for women. Sadly, these days, a virgin's price is something you can't afford and doesn't exist. Most women, generally speaking, come with the risk of a high body count, what I call HBC. Your role then is at 35 to choose the right person that you can pair bond with, that hasn't been on the streets for too long. So, number 3, you should view favorably women who have been living girlfriends to other men. And view those women much highly than women who have been independent, living on their own. When you move in with someone, at those age ranges, 35 for the man and 27 for the woman, both of you are independent. You don't need anyone else for your economic sustenance. Emotionally, you're mature. Now, I should have said about the women. Between 18 and 27, play the same game. Have a few plates spinning. Don't move in with a man. Make sure you don't get pregnant. Marry before you carry if you choose to. Make sure that he doesn't give you promises that he can't keep. Don't take any titles from men, partner, fiance, all but BS. Wait until 27. But the men, coming back to number 3, view favorably women who have been living girlfriends to other men, with some caveats, and view these better than you would, and view them hold them in higher esteem than you would women who have been independent, who've gone from one boyfriend to another, but who've lived on their own forever. Why? Women who live independently usually have higher body counts, HBCs. It is what it is. You're free, you live alone. It's not unusual to have single girlfriends, and therefore you're out every night partying and being drawn to making decisions that your friends are making. Higher risk. Women who live on their own are more independent. A woman who's lived with a man effectively has had the opportunity to recognize the importance of playing the role of codependency. Both parties need each other. We can be independent, but we need each other. However, whilst you view favorably women who have lived with other men, recognize that it's a very high possibility that a lot of her dreams were given up in her prior relationship if she lived with a man. Now, if you met a woman who is 29 and she lived with a man between 26 and 28, it's fine. It means she'd finished her journey of 10,000 hours of practice, and she also had the benefit of trying out what we call a trial marriage. Now, here are some of the caveats and the rules. When you live with someone as a trial marriage, it means you're really testing to see if this will work. The longer the woman has lived with the man, the longer the time it would take for you to flush out everything that comes with that prior relationship. For example, if it exceeds 1 year, then you need about a third of the time in the relationship as a detox time. Effectively, she has to go into rehab, where she's detoxing herself from the past relationship. She needs to be seen as a therapist, the longer the number of years she's been in the relationship. Good example. Many of you may have been familiar with the story about Esther and Mordecai. A well-known story from the books of antiquities, and it talks about a woman who's called Esther, and Mordecai was the king, and he was looking to replace his wife Vashti. I hope I get it right. And all the women who were being brought to the king had to be put through the process. Esther had to soak in perfume water and be put through a training process for 12 months, 6 months in water. The purpose of that was that when she came into the presence of the king, which is what you are, men, by the way, she was coming in for the position of the queen, which is what you are, or will be, ladies. She had to have purged herself of all of the scent, aroma, stench from the past. There was a decorum. There was an expectation about being in the king's presence. And it started with how she smelled, the aroma, the fragrance. The last thing he wanted was a slave girl with slave mindsets, not used to royalty and pristine environments, and not knowing how to behave. The 12 months was for her to be trained. I made a mistake. Esther and the king. Mordecai was the one training her. There goes my theological knowledge down the drain. It doesn't matter. Esther was the one in question, and Vashti was the queen who had been deposed from her position for making or not knowing how to speak to a king. In any case, the women had to be put through this interesting process of being trained, prepared for the king in the palace. You, the man, you have to apply some rules. You have to recognize, number one, if she moves in with you, should you choose her, she's not allowed and cannot bring in gifts, artifacts from the previous relationship into your home or into your shared home. Out of the question. This is a sofa my ex-boyfriend bought for me. No, you shouldn't be there. The last thing you need is a third voice, a third spirit, a third presence in your house. Home is where the heart is, your space, it's your domain. You can burn everything if needs be, or she can gift it away or sell it. You know, gifts that have been given to her, she should ensure she parts with things that draw memories of the old relationship into your home and your space. Not acceptable. It's got to go. I don't really care if these things are value. Engagement ring, obviously, she has to give it back. You know, items of furniture, homeware, accessories, gifts. You know, you have to sit down and make sure you do not allow into your shared space the spirits. Remember, where a man's treasure is, that's where his heart is also. It may not be an engagement ring, but it could be a gift of value. 2-3 months of his salary, who knows, something sentimental to him, a gift his grandmother gave him, a ring, a bracelet which he gifted to the girl, which is where his heart is. It doesn't have to be in your temple. Send it away. Get rid of it. You also need 6 months of retraining. Although people who live with other people as living girlfriends, although there are benefits, there are also disadvantages. One of the disadvantages that the person molds you into what they want. It's like having a custom car. You put new alloy wheels and you put new loudspeakers and you put different internal accessories to make it look different. Even better, the analogies like houses. Those of you who bought houses or who have viewed houses for purchase or for renting, what you find is sometimes you view a house and it looks lovely on the outside. In this case, it could be who knows, a house that dates back to the 1600s. You know, gorgeous house. Who knows? Tudor building, for example. Stunning on the outside, and you get inside and you see things that have been done to make it homely to the previous owner. Things that have been installed. Could be FF&E, fixtures, furnitures, equipment. It could be ironmongery. It could be some woodwork detailing. It could be just accessories. For example, a friend of mine some time ago purchased a place, and you know, it had all the very fancy things, a wet room and spa room and all of that, sauna, steam room, and he just couldn't stand any of those items, so he had it all removed, and the entire house was gutted out, and new floorings were put, new kitchen, new bathrooms, new windows, new shutters. It was completely a gut job. That's the same thing that happens in relationship. A woman who has been living with another man is very similar to a house that has been occupied by a person for a long time. They've made it into a home that they want. And you don't have to live looking at pictures that you don't like. Find things that inspire you and put them in front of you. Most people buy houses. In those houses are things that absolutely drive them insane. But because the picture looks expensive, they keep the pictures on the wall, despite the picture being irritating to them. You know, other people come and say, well, we love this, your picture is amazing. The question is, how do I feel when I look at that picture every day? First thing you should do, and do this early, is do a gut job. Remove everything that is not reflective of what you like or what you want. 6 months of retraining. It shouldn't exceed 6 months. If it exceeds 6 months, she's too hard, too heavy-headed. It won't work. 6 months, if she's struggling on the basics, she's got to go. Bad habits linger on for a long time. Your role is not to be a teacher every day. Your role is for her to watch, observe, become attentive, and then you guide her. You're playing the role of someone who's guiding. Now, this principle applies to both parties. You train people by what you tolerate, and you teach people by what you're unwilling and refuse to condemn, eliminate, or cast away. So at the early stages, observations, pay attention. Here's a watchword for you for the day. Pay attention. Be attentive. Identify decorums, behaviors, mannerisms that are not consistent with what you want in your space. Sit down, use kind words, and bring it to the table, and both of you should agree on a pathway forward. I'll say this in closing. Don't compromise. If you have to compromise in your relationship, you've chosen the wrong person to be with. Compromise should not be a lifestyle. I've seen people who keep compromising. Well, we have to compromise. We have to compromise. And they keep compromising to the point that in 10 years, they wake up and say, well, this is not me. I gave up everything that I used to be. You find someone who is similar to you, shared values, complementary skills. Both of you maybe have high body count or low body counts, but you keep it similar. Otherwise, if there is a variation in experience, if there is a variation in goals, dreams, past, trauma, it seldom works. Now, I hope this will help. There's simple things to keep in mind. In summary, when it comes to dating, timing is more important than staying, what I call time, in the relationship. So in the stock market, we say time in the market over the long term is usually much better than trying to time the market, knowing when to buy and when to sell. In relationships, it's the reverse. You don't have to stay in a relationship simply because you think it's the best long-term decision. No, you want to wait until 35. Boom, that's the right time. Anytime from 35 and above, you're ready to move in, you're ready to get married. Before that, not so much. Now, are there exceptions to my rules? Or are there exceptions to the rules? Absolutely. Some of you are wise, wiser than I am, wiser than I ever would be, and even wiser than I was when I was younger. A lot of these things were not available to me. Social media, the internet, these were luxuries that we had back then, which are essentials these days. So you can get both education and entertainment just like that. When I started, this was what we call personal development. Starting from, Andrew Carnegie, going all the way down to Napoleon Hill, and then coming all the way down to W. Clement Stone, Paul Meyer. Then you come down to Zig Ziglar, my favorite, Jim Rohn. And then you come down to other people, the Tony Robbins. These were people who brought down all the lessons, Bob Proctor, all the people who brought all the lessons about how to improve your life. But guess what? You had to read books, you had to go to seminars, there were no videos. And if the videos that were available, you may not have had the infrastructure to listen and learn in video format. It may have been available in audio format. We had to use cassettes. Things are available today, so failure should not be something that should be, I guess, an outcome for you, except you don't try, because the information is always in your face. If only you would take the information, study it, infer from the information, process, take what you like. You don't always have to swallow everything whole. Eat the meat, spit out the bone. And if you do want, eat the meat, take the bone, make some bone broth, and have it soup. There's always something to learn. I hope that's been useful.